Welcome to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My guest is Paul Rigault. Rigault is the CEO and co-founder of the Døds Diving League, the Døds Federation, which is the governing body of this extreme sport. He's going to explain all of this to us. You will not believe what's going on here. Paul is a key figure in organizing and promoting this sport, which involves athletes diving from significant heights and performing unbelievable tricks. Paul is instrumental in the sport's international expansion, especially through what they do around social media. And he's going to get into all this around this. And I'm really excited to have Paul on our show. Paul, welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Yeah, true pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Paul, this is awesome. So you're coming to us live from Oslo, Norway. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. In the winter and the dark.
Wait, in the winter, so is it really true that it's dark?
I want to show you. It's pitch dark outside.
It's in the middle of the afternoon. It should be.
Yeah, I know. That's Norway.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Paul, tell us, about the Døds Diving League and how you created this.
Yeah, so it's first and foremost, it's pronounced Døds in Norwegian, which means death, which is like very, very suiting for the Viking nation of Norway. And it's a diving sport that started in the 70s in Oslo. It was a way of picking up the local girls at the local community pool. So it was about hard slams from the 10 meter, that's the 30-feeder, and landing as hard as possible in front of these girls and maximizing the splash. So that was the start of the era of Døds diving. And then we were little kids during that period. So we were the last generation of guys doing this, and then the sport kind of died out. So we had a highly unconventional world championship in 2008, where we just kind of a group of friends got together. We were like 50 people and started diving and had a world championship for the first time. And then suddenly, 2-3 years later, we had 3,000 people there, and the sport got reborn in social media.
So in the dots, how did that sound?
Yeah, good.
All right.
That's
Dots.
the way.
Okay.
That's the way.
So when you're diving in the Døds League, you want to make a big splash?
Yeah, so it's all about the splash. It's all about the entertainment. But it seems kind of more. It is first and foremost a sport, so it's very similar to snowboarding, and you do the same tricks as you do in parkour and in freestyle skiing and stuff like that. So it's just that you land in water and you land in this unique Dutch position, which is a shrimp or a taco, and then you open up underwater, which gives you a huge vacuum and a huge splash.
So it's the opposite of like Olympic diving, where you want no splash at all, right?
Exactly. So here you have the chlorine, the speedos, the silence, and the technique. Here you have the pure madness. You have pyro, you have the DJs, and you have pure entertainment.
That sounds fascinating. So talk about what a diving event looks like. Like what happens?
Yeah, so it's a 2-hour event. It's typically 40 divers. You can compete both as a team and as an athlete. So you have 40 going to 20 in the quarterfinals, and then going to the semis with 10 divers, and then the finals you have 5 divers, and then it's a battle format, so it's all about winning the tower.
Winning the tower meaning
just like beating every guys and girls on your way to the victory. So it's a battle format very similar to how the Snow League is doing it in snowboarding.
And are there how many judges?
So you have 5 judges. So it's takeoff, it's the speed and power out of the tower, and then it's the trick you do in the air, which is technicality. And then of course you have steez. It has to look stupid easy, so cool. And then of course you have the landing, and then you have one overall judge.
And what are the ranges of scores? Like how does that work?
So you go from 1 to 10, and then you have decimals.
So who are some of the top figures, the top athletes in the Døds Diving League?
Yeah, so even if this kind of started as an entertainment peacocking sport back in the local community pool, it's actually a sport that attracts most action sports in the world. So we have divers from snowboarding, skate, parkour, trampoline, skydiving, you name it. And I think the main reason for that is just because the tricks are very similar in what we're doing. And then most of these guys and girls, they're superstars on social media. So some of our athletes have over 5 million followers. So you're talking about bringing the show to the party. This is it. It's just a new format of sport meeting entertainments in just the most ridiculous and entertaining way.
Now, are these outside, inside, or you use a pool? Is it you dive off a cliff? Like how does this all work?
Yeah, so the only thing we need is a body of water and some kind of place to jump from. So we've done competition everywhere. You can do it in a river, you can do it in the ocean, you can do it in a local community pool, you can do it in a lake, and we build it all. So you can do it from a bridge, from a tower, from a boat. So it's a very kind of flexible format, and the only thing you need to compete is a swim trunk or a swimsuit. So it's probably the most accessible sport in the world.
Talk about some of the stars. They're some of your world champions that you've had.
Yeah, so it did start as a Norwegian thing, and then it grew out in the Scandies, and then it started kind of gaining terrain in France and then in Italy. Obviously, kind of it started in Europe, so you have a lot of big stars here. And this year alone, 5 of the Norwegian divers, they're all over TV now. So they get recruited to all the new kind of reality TV shows in France. The kind of big son of France, he's just now highlighting one of the biggest TV shows in France. And now we're seeing the same thing happening in the US. So it is a talent pipe going directly into Hollywood. So it's insane. These people are very, very popular on social media.
Phenomenal. It's amazing. I mean, so if why did you start this? How did you decide to go and do this?
Yeah, so backtracking a couple of years, this was something we did for fun. So this was just a legacy play. We wanted this sport to exist. That was kind of the first purpose. And then after a couple of years, so many people started to come to these events. And then a whole new generation of divers was starting to get introduced to the sport. And within 5 years, we became diving 2.0. We became the movement of freestyle diving. So we're kind of the opposite, just as you're saying, just like snowboarding revolutionized skiing back in the 90s, it became the most watched Winter Olympic sports. We are doing exactly the same for aquatic sports. So we have to remember that even though aquatic sport is one of the oldest Olympic sport, it's been a while since diving has changed, if you know what I mean. So adding this kind of freestyle Gen Z entertaining kind of vibe into the aquatic sports is totally changing it and now becoming one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
So you said earlier that this is from the quiet, the Speedos to a real party and DJ. And so if you're a diver, if you're one of the top divers, what do you wear? Because like the snowboarders definitely don't wear the normal gear that the skiers wear. So what do you wear in Døds Diving League?
Yeah. So you'll typically see the surf shorts and the kind of the traditional swimsuit shorts for guys. But if you want to keep it OG, you have to kind of do the cut off jean shorts, because you have to protect your parts. That's the proper way of doing it in Norway.
I mean, I can only imagine. So what are some of the highest dives that occur? I mean, like you said, it could be from 30 feet or, do they go even higher?
Yeah, so, and this is very important because this is the natural evolution of action sport. You always push limits, and we're all about diving from 33 to 43 feet, and we want it to be a safe competition environment, and we want everybody to compete. And we haven't had one serious injury since we started this back in 2008. So you can, of course, have bruises and stuff like that, but nothing kind of dangerous. But once you start jumping higher than 43 feet, accidents do happen. And then today is 49 meters, that's going to be 147 feet. And when you land in a Dutch position, the impact is so heavy, you hit up to 2 Gs.
That's. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, so I know how to do it, but I can do it from 30 feet, and I can do it like old school kind of classic air ballet style, but I can't do the slams they're doing today. But that's part of the sport also, and the natural evolution.
So what has really surprised you in running this and building this?
That's a great question. I think maybe the closest similarity is how you see this kind of youth sports movements happening with skateboarding and snowboarding and surfing is maybe the closest parallel I can see to this sport, because it is tapping into something that already existed, which was diving. It's just making it cooler. And it makes it relevant for a whole new generation. So suddenly you have... In Norway, you won't see anybody diving anymore. This is what they do. And the same in Sweden. And now you're seeing the same thing in France. And because of the flight that you're doing and the landing that you're doing, you're actually adding an axis on your rotation. So you have double the amount of tricks you can do in the air. So you can do it horizontally and you can do it vertically, meaning that the sky's the limit. And it's so addictive to watch. And one of the coolest things that the girls are battling it out in the same league, in the same class. So last year, a girl actually won the whole US national and crushed the guys.
It's incredible. That's incredible because you're not having to sort of get like vertical, I guess, right? And
exactly
at the end, right? The end of your
dive. So that
dive
opens up for kind of so many more tricks in the air. And so much more entertaining to watch.
And so, as a fan coming to one of the events, what is that experience like?
So I think the closest thing, last year we went to Monster Energies, our main sponsor. So we had the US Nationals in Fort Lauderdale, and then we were invited to PBR, the bull riding league. And that's us, just with bull riders. So we actually had such a great time, and the bull riders connected with the Dutch divers. And the day after, we had all the world champions teaching how to Dutch dive in Fort Lauderdale. So that was a blast. But in short, it's like a music festival meets sports entertainment. So it's super close. So you have the splash zone, so you do feel the water. We have pyro, so you do feel the flames. The athletes are amongst the audience, so it's this hype energy kind of atmosphere. And then the media play is insane. So everybody's there with the screens and their phones, and everything, of course, is live on TV. So this year is a big transitional year for us, because in 26, ESPN will become our new media partner in the US.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So talk about, sort of the journey to ESPN from a media perspective.
Yeah, so this year was the first year we broadcasted the whole league, but we did it on tape. So this is going out to all media channels today. So we're distributed in 60 countries plus. In 26, it's the first year we're moving over to a TV-ready live production. And until now, it has only been shown on NRK, which is the national TV channel in Norway. And we peaked at 135,000 views in July, which in Norway is big. We're a small country. But I think the most interesting thing was that over a third of the viewership was under 30. And that was a record for NRK Norway. And that was also the reason why ESPN are interested. Now we're in negotiation with The Zone now. We're talking with sports.com. So this is a product bringing Gen Z back to TV in one of the biggest and oldest sports in the world, aquatic sports.
Is this something that could be part of the Olympics at some point?
I would definitely say yes. I wouldn't have said yes if I didn't see breakdance this year or last year. But now everything is possible. And I think one important thing here is that the change is so big now. Of course, you have the big fives with basketball and hockey and football and all that stuff. But there's a new generation of sports fan coming to town, and they don't want to see the long formats. They want to relate to these people. There's so much identity coming into this play that I do think that this is definitely the future also of the Olympics. You have to think new. And I'm thinking we're coming from social media. We're actually transitioning to linear. So we have to take all that cool stuff we're doing on social media, we have to bring it to the broadcast instead of doing the opposite.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the business side and especially on your expertise in social media. So how did you guys sort of get that muscle to be able to do that and build this incredible following that you have on social media?
Yeah, so I think, and that's a good question because we average organically 17 million per event, and that's without us spending a dime on pushing the content. And I think the first formula is a strong community of athletes. People do want to, or they have to live the lifestyle because they're shooting this every day. And if they're not doing it in a competition, they're finding a cliff and they're doing it. So that's one part of it. And the second part of it is the natural evolution of it being so entertaining. So you're a storyteller at the end. So we have the most incredible athletes on the planet. You can find everything from a crazy 55-year-old guy to a 13-year-old kid from Norway to the wildest motocross people in the US. It's like watching Nitro Circus and Jackass and then having this kind of whole new generation, but in a little bit more proper way, if you know what I mean. It's still got that vibe, but it's done in such a cool and sustainable way. So I think storytelling is definitely part two of it.
And are there any specific social media platforms that have really performed well for you?
Yeah, so we're mainly on short format on Instagram, and then we do YouTube for the longer content. TikTok tends to kick us out because of the name of the sport, so we have to kind of rebuild it every time. So we've kind of paused that initiative. But I do think kind of at least that's our main model today, and then of course everything happening on streaming platforms.
So how does the league work with I was going to call them the creators. I guess they are creators and athletes, right, at the same time. How do you work together with them?
Yeah, so you have to decide a strategy. You have to decide what is doing what. So we decided very early that if you want to see the competition, you have to see that on a streaming platform or televised. If you want to get to know the people, you're going to have to follow them on social media. And if you want to see all the crazy stuff they're doing, social media. So you kind of bring a hype to the events. So you have these follow cams. People are flying in from all over the world to kind of compete. You see the behind the scene cameras. Everybody's doing their blog. You come to the competition and then you turn off and then it's streaming and competition time. And then you're back on social media straight afterwards. No, and that kind of that makes all the athletes aggregators. So of course we shoot everything we do. We share everything we do with our athletes. So go ahead and make your edits. We don't need to kind of own that stuff. We want our media product to spread because that will drive traffic to the broadcast. And that kind of sharing attitude also helps a lot building kind of reach within the sport.
What is the maybe the craziest thing or a couple of the craziest things? You keep using the word crazy and exciting, and right, like what are some of the things that we should keep our eyes out for?
No, I think it took me a while to understand that our product wasn't actually the diving in itself. It was the community, and that's hence the reference to snowboarding and skateboarding and all that stuff, because it's a movement. It's just like, even if you do it from the pool side, you feel like a rock star when you do it, because it doesn't make any sense to enter the water in a horizontal way and then land afterwards. And that energy alone makes you a dodger. So I remember this from snowboarding back in the days. You maybe had one guy doing a crazy trick on the jump, but most of the guys just hung. And that's a lot of the same vibe we see in dodge diving. It's a vibe, it's a culture, it's something everybody do. And of course you do other stuff as well, but this is the home.
So the home is really starting to expand though, from Europe to the US and the rest of the world. So where are you going next?
Yeah, and that was an important change for us, because we came from Europe, we built this big in Europe. So this year we had 5 international events, and then we have some independent events in new markets where we're not present at. But in 2022, we had a pilot event in Austin, Texas. It just took 6 months and it blew up in the US. Just like it went from not knowing the sport, just taking everything over. So we quickly understood that, okay, here we're tapping into existing diving clubs, we're tapping into existing freestyle divers, high divers. The niche in the US is a huge market. So we started having events in the US, and this year we had 2 events in the US, one in Portsmouth and one in Dallas. And then have some big reveals coming out in a couple of weeks for 2026. But the goal is to build up to 10 to 12 events within the next 3 years, with the US being the most important markets. And then also tapping into the college diving clubs in 2026. So building a full kind of amateur to professional pathway. And there's sky's the limit, because you can probably deploy that playbook in any market in the future once you've kind of proven it in the US.
Has there been a difference in the styles of, say, maybe the European divers versus the American divers?
Yeah, so it took a while for the Americans to understand the skis part, because they were so technical. So they have to understand to make it look a little bit more casual, because it has to kind of, and you have to close late. So late landings, that's what you need, and that's kind of the Norwegian way. You need that slam when you land. But I think what you're saying is kind of maybe the most interesting thing about this, because it is being scaled as now a professional diving league, with kind of the Champions League on top, with the World Tour, and then with the amateur league that we're now deploying the next couple of years, tapping into 300 diving clubs in the US, and then we're going to the Middle East, then we're going to Asia, and then we're going to South America. And knowing that already this sport is so big, there's so many fans, and just imagine Asia, how big diving is over there. So I think it's an early stage, but this is going probably to the Olympics. My bet would be this becoming one of the fastest growing global sports within the next 5 years.
So how do you have to, like, in some of these pools that a lot of the traditional divers are diving in, they may have like PA systems, they may not have the kind of speakers for music and kind of stuff that you guys probably want for your events. Do you have to bring in that? Or, I mean, it must change the whole culture, because those are very quiet events. You hear, they announce the name, and then it's silence, and then the guy walks up, or the diver, she's like, takes her time and takes her breath. But in your situation, there's loud music, and it must be amazingly different.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe kind of the whole kind of the cheat factor we're using. It's the same kind of infrastructure, but we just put the oomph in the event. We have the music, you bring the people, you have kind of water toys in the pool, you bring on the pyro, you bring out the monster girl, you have a huge after party afterwards. And it doesn't take that much time before the whole pool is a big party. So I think at the end, again, it's the community driving all this. And actually, if you ask anybody in the pool, they do want a good pool party. So it's not very difficult to kind of ignite that spark.
I mean, you mentioned sort of the Snow League and some of these other leagues. Is there one specific league, whether it's in the action sports world or in other areas that have really inspired you, and you're modeling maybe a little this to be part of your overall league?
Yeah, so I think the Snow League is an important parallel. Of course, they have theirs with Snow White fronting the whole league and everything. It makes it a little bit easier because you have a pin on the product. We have to build it with social media influencers, and a little bit more organically. But I think the whole being kind of the king of the mountains, we're doing the same. We're king of the waters, and bringing that vibe is definitely something that hasn't happened in aquatic sports. So it's a revolution within this sport. But a second league, I would kind of, which is not an action sport, that I think is actually very similar to what we are doing, in addition to PBR, the bull riding that I talked about earlier, is the curling group. Because I heard a podcast with John Albright from Relay Ventures, and they just invested in the curling group. making curling cool again. And I think that was such with Nick Scully and heading the whole venture. They saw on paper that curling was becoming huge once every 4 years because of the Olympics, but nothing was happening in between. And they thought, well, there's a huge fan here. Just like we have the 235 million fans in aquatic sport, they had the similar number of views. They had almost 200 million people watching curling. And now they're making the Grand Slams of curling, and now it's becoming a full year sport, just like we're building it with the diving. And it's built on a much more sustainable and smart model, meaning that it's built on 20% of the costs of the original leagues. So you think differently when you build media production. You think differently in the size of the events. You think differently in the commercial engines that you fire up during your events. So there's a lot of stuff happening there that I think is very interesting, and especially with VCs also coming into this space and investing in ecosystems, so they can offer a full ecosystem to emerging leagues, which also makes it, again, cheaper for them to build.
Well, it's interesting as we were, originally introduced, by Alejandro Bedoya, who's, professional soccer player here in the United States. And as you mentioned, his wife's from Norway, and he's very close with my partner, Chad Stender here. And, he's always saying, like, you got to check these guys out. So I'm excited we had this opportunity to get together and talk. I mean, you remind me a lot of Jesse Cole. I mean, I met Jesse before a lot of people in the U.S. knew who the Savannah Bananas were.
Yeah.
And, he talked a lot like you and talked a lot about how it's so important to think differently and really think about how to make a really entertaining event, have a lot of fun, and really engage the consumer, the fan, make it fans first. You guys sound a lot alike, and it's something that I'm sure you pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I've actually heard that reference before as well. But I think I just listened to a podcast from Ari Emanuel, the owner, and his whole kind of bet against AI with people needing to be social, because everybody's starting a 4-day week now in Netherlands, and then suddenly you have driving time in the US escalating from 11 to 4, and then suddenly hotel nights are up on Thursday, and people are starting to need to meet people and to do stuff. And you can't only watch stuff on TV. You also need live events to kind of integrate yourself into society and be social and meet people. And I think that the emerging sports league, it's a good bet on that that change, because not all the channels can afford paying for the big fives. A new generation of sports fans are coming in, but one thing is very sure: people will consume content, and people will consume live. And I think if you can offer something that's entertaining, and you can meet people, and you can be part of a community, and you can have that energy, and you can go back home and suddenly you're part of this, then you kind of have that cheat hack, I think.
It's been amazing having you on the show. And as we start to wind down here on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, Paul, I mean, it's been awesome having you on the show, hearing all about, the Døds Diving League. I hope I'm saying this right now.
Perfect.
And I want to be a Dotser. Is that what
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
I'm really, really happy we had this opportunity to have this conversation. And, as sort of maybe a closing thought or a closing thing to just sort of talk about is, like, what should we really keep our eye on, in 2026 for what's next?
Yeah, I think please come to an event. I promise you will get hooked. So we have 3 new US destinations coming out in 4 or 5 weeks time. I'll make sure to post about that on my LinkedIn. So, and if you want to kind of know more about this sport, please contact me. We're all about building our network in the US, and the US will be our focus market going onwards. So we're just looking forward to making this big in the US. It's an exciting journey ahead.
It's been great having you. Paul Rigault, the CEO and co-founder of the Døds Diving League. This is incredible. So happy we got a chance to talk, and wish you the best of luck.
Likewise. Thank you, Wayne.
On behalf of the entire 76 Capital team, thank you for joining us for this edition of our Sports Leadership Show. Please remember to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast network or on the 76 Capital website. You can also explore the hundreds of episodes we've produced over the past several years on those same networks. And as always, go out there and make it happen.